I guess we'll get started. Short little agenda. We'll start with introductions. We'll start down there. Joel.
Joel Perry, I'm with the site development group at Structurepoint.
Sage Flanagan, bridge engineer, project manager with the bridge group.
I'm Mike Robinall. I am the department head for the road group, so I manage all of the roadway engineers in our Blue Ash and our Columbus and our Cleveland offices. We have about 27 engineers working for us in our group. We're about 100 people strong in Ohio. So I'll expand on that. So American Structurepoint. How many people have ever heard of American Structurepoint? Anybody? Couple? 2, 3, 4, 5? That's not bad. So contrary to its name, we do more than just structures. So while I love our name, it does tend to drive people to think that we're just building buildings all the time, which we are not. We do a lot of that in Indianapolis. We do bridges here in Ohio. So that's what Sage does. He's in our bridge group, project manager for our bridge department. Again, we do a lot of different things. Just about everything a site civil engineer does, actually, American Structurepoint does, and does here in Ohio. So we're over 500 people. Our number is probably creeping more towards 600 people. We've got about 100 and so-ish in Ohio. Biggest office is Columbus. We have almost 70 some people here in Columbus. We factor in all our inspectors and survey field crews. So it's a good size office here in Columbus. We have about 20 up in Cleveland and about 7 or 8 down in our Blue Ash office. So and from those locations, we service just about all of the major cities, metro around Ohio. So do a lot of work all over the state of Ohio. We are over 20 years old here in Ohio, but as you can see, we're over 50 years old as a company. So we've grown a lot, come a long way. Let's say we are number 9 Central Ohio engineering firm. When I started 7 years ago, we were up in the teens, so we have seen a good amount of growth. And as you can see by our list of services up there, always starts with architecture, which I hate because we don't do that in Ohio, but you know we do have architects. Again, civil engineers, construction inspectors, environmental engineers, surveying, investigative, which I'll explain at the end, and then transportation, which encompasses a lot of what we'll talk about here today.
Put the X on the top right now.
There's our geographical map. As you can see, we're very centered in Indiana as the home office. Got a lot of offices and people working in Indiana. They cover about 350, 370 of those folks are in Indianapolis. That's where a lot of our administrative people are, a lot of our executives. But you can see in Ohio, we've got 3 offices. We also do have offices down in Texas and Florida as well. And we'll start with a little background on our bridge department.
So before I get started, is anybody here thinking about possibly pursuing a career in bridge engineering? Thought about it? Well, a little background info. We have 24 people company-wide in our bridge group. That's engineers and technicians. 5 engineers, including myself, in our Columbus office. Pretty good sized group with a wide range of experience. So that allows us to pursue a wide range of projects, from large highway reconstruction jobs all the way down to small, box culvert stream type crossings. So go through a few slides just to kind of illustrate some of the projects that we work on. This first one is the I-74, I-75 interchange reconstruction project down in Cincinnati. It's actually still under construction right now as we speak. They should be finishing up, I think, beginning of 2022. This was a design build project that we won back in 2018 with our contractor partner, Walsh Construction. So this is a complex project, big, interchange job, a lot of bridge work, a lot of retaining walls. There's new main line crossing on I-75. You can kind of see down there in the corner, flyover ramp right there, and then major rehabilitation work on I-74 at four different locations. So again, a complex project, a lot of disciplines involved. Because it was a design build job, it was very, very fast-paced design schedule. We had all the design work that's done within the first year of being authorized. So that's moving pretty fast on something like that. This one, you guys might recognize. This is John Herod Drive, over the old TNG. This was small bridge rehabilitation job we did for Ohio State under the street and bridge maintenance contract we had at the time. This is more of a bread and butter type project. You know, it's not all interchange reconstruction jobs. So, this was a typical rehab job. You know, take off the sidewalks, take off the asphalt overlay, repair some joints, just some basic stuff to keep the bridge functioning the way it should. But even a project like this is not without its challenges. After the contractor tore off the deck and the sidewalks, they found the beams were pretty much toast on top. So we had to come up with some pretty last minute repair details and make sure everything stayed on schedule. Here's another big highway reconstruction job. This one was over in Dayton, I-75 and US 35, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
This was third lane widening on 75. So another big job. This one I believe had 13 new bridge structures on it, eight rehabilitations, and lots of retaining wall also. So another big job. This one was a design bid build contract with ODOT. So different type of project delivery method, more traditional than the design build, but a lot more reasonable pace, let's say. It's not just all vehicular bridges. We do railroad bridges too. This is a project we did for the city of Lima. Took a at-grade crossing and grade separated it. So, rail structures come with a lot of challenges. You're working for the railroad. First of all, they're notoriously hard to work with. There's a lot of coordination required, different design codes than vehicular bridges. So we navigated them on that, turned out good. And here's another large project. This is a P3 job, so yet another project delivery method here, which you're seeing a lot on these big mega type projects. Which this was a part of a mega project to build a new Ohio River crossing near Louisville, Kentucky. So this project was actually the eastern approach, 4 miles of new highway, tons of bridges, retaining walls. You can see this picture here showing you kind of an example of the main line with 2 roundabout intersections at the interchange there. So we do a lot of roundabouts at American Structurepoint, which
That is the one thing we do.
show you some more of, but
I'll have a number of slides there. So as Sage kind of alluded to, the transportation department is really made up of the traffic, the bridge, and the road. So all those people are working together. Just about every job you showed had a strong roadway component. Probably started with the traffic analysis to size certain things or make sure we've got capacity. Most all those projects were driven by capacity or the need to improve the ability to move people and goods throughout the interchanges. So transportation, it kind of encompasses all of that. Some of my example projects, we did the Gemini Parkway project. We extended the project from the I-71 interchange all the way down to Worthington Road. Again, we talked about design bid or design build. It's a process by which you partner with the contractor, and the goal is to move really, really quickly. So we're designing, they're ordering materials. We're finishing our design, their materials are showing up on site. So the goal is to really get going really fast. This was to drive, IKEA wanted to open their doors. So we follow a normal delivery process. It could be years before we get through ODOT and Columbus and Westerville municipalities to get approvals. But you put kind of this delivery method in place, you can move really quickly. So Gemini Park was a great project for the community, great project for IKEA, got Topgolf, and you're starting to see more and more development up in that area. That was the reason for the job in that regard. So it was about getting the infrastructure built as quickly as possible. Another design build project, again, not overly complex, just wanted to widen 71. Anyone who's driven from here to Cleveland, before they widened it, got a little congested. If you're driving down to Cincinnati, you're still suffering through that because there's a lot of trucks and you're fighting to get around them. Here we widened it out to 3 lanes. Again, not overly complex engineering, really got the room to build what we need to. But we partnered with Kekosing on this, and I think it was about 10 or 12 miles worth of just straight widening. A couple bridges I think we modified to get the abutments out of the way and piers. But for the most part, it was a pretty cut and dry project. Great opportunity for Ohio to invest in commerce, truck traffic, and increase or decrease those delays heading towards Cleveland. Here's one project that I don't have cool pictures of yet because we have not built it. This is a project we've been working on for a couple years with the city of Columbus. This is a urban revitalization project along Hudson Street between I-71 and Cleveland Avenue, right through the heart of the Linden community. Projects like this are great for us as a company because this is one opportunity where you're doing a project for a community in your backyard and you're seeing the improvements. You know, I'm really excited when this pops up. This will do a lot for the community. See, we're building a shared use path on one side. We squeeze the road over to the north, upgrading all the sidewalks, upgrading some utilities, brand new water lines going in, new lighting system. So this is going to help the Linden community. It's an investment on the mayor's part, but it's one of those projects where you can definitely see the results. We hope to see a lot of redevelopment through that corridor and really try to bring some life back to the neighborhood that's been struggling and potentially neglected for a while. And then last but not least, just a few of our roundabouts. We do a lot of that. American Structurepoint was on the cutting edge of roundabout design. I think we're up over 200, 300 roundabouts built and in place at this point. So this is not a new technology, but it's new to the States. It's new to a lot of designers. It was new to ODOT. It was new to Columbus and a lot of municipalities who hadn't seen them yet. It's a great opportunity for our designers to become industry experts. There are still several of them who go around the country and present on the ever-evolving technology associated with the analyzing and forecasting the efficiencies. See, this one is another one of those projects where there's that bridge he was showing you, the rail bridge. This is a grade separation project. See, it's a lot bigger than that too. There's a roundabout, 5-legged roundabout in there, 4-legged roundabout. Then another one where we got rail going through the middle of the roundabout. Doesn't happen all the time. So a lot of cool projects that we've done with roundabouts over the years.
You know, Mike talked about Hudson Street and how it was good for the community. I personally took Hudson Street here. So
There you go.
I think that is going to be a necessary improvement.
Very much.
So again, I'm Joel. I'm with the civil engineering, private site development side. Kind of on the flip side of these guys, we work more with private developers. So, you know, people come to us, they've got tracts of land that they want to develop, or they've got you know, they're looking for tracts of land that they want to develop so that they can provide different products for the central Ohio area, for really all of Ohio, parts of Kentucky and Indiana. We've got a really big presence there as well. But just want to show you a couple of examples of maybe some of the larger and smaller scale projects that we've done, just kind of show really the extent of land development, what we kind of see in all of those areas. So this right here is actually a 375 acre parcel in Hilliard. It's called Alton Place, and it's what we call mixed use development. So we've got portions of apartment buildings, commercial development, residential housing, single family, things like that. This has been, you know, this is an example of a project that kind of from entitlement and the due diligence phase all the way through construction can take, you know, for us a long time, which would be like 5 to 7 years. To get to see something like that directly affects like the community of Hilliard, for example, is really a kind of a rewarding part of our job. So this has been one of our really big projects here as of recent. And actually something else that I could say for both of these projects, Alton Place and this one is the Rickenbacker Exchange industrial job, is, you know, when we get into some of these jobs where a developer comes and they want to implement, you know, certain developments in certain areas, we get a chance to bring on some of our other members of our group. So for example, this is the Rickenbacker Exchange Industrial Park in Commercial Point. Mike and his road team actually designed the road infrastructure that traversed through this property. Bridge and Sage here, they actually designed 2 bridges located at Peters Run and also Stream 11. I don't know if that actually has a name.
I don't know either.
But so it's another rewarding part of our job, and all of us, is that, you know, when we win bigger projects like this, we get a chance to bring in other areas and other parts of our company that everybody really benefits from a lot of these things. And overall, I think this was a 1,250 acre development. In the top right corner, you can kind of see that's one of the first buildings that is now built and occupied. So, but in total, I think there are going to be 13 buildings, around 10 million square feet of building in total. So industrial has been a really big hitter for us lately. That's me in a storm pipe right there, in case anybody was wondering. That's a pretty big one. So you get to take goofy pictures like that every now and then too. These are some other examples of maybe some industrial plants and industrial buildings that we've designed and seen come to fruition. We've got really 3 examples. Top right there, we've got one in Etna Township, Licking County. Really what we see with a lot of these developers is they're trying to get these buildings in the ground, so bigger names like Amazon and FedEx and L Brands, and even some of the smaller guys can come in and have warehousing available and all of the different areas around Columbus. And I think, you know, there's like a stat or something, I'm sure, if I started like Columbus or Central Ohio's, you can reach 70% of the country or something in one day from Ohio. So we see a lot of this type of development in the Central Ohio area. So kind of the next branch that I think that we would offer is site design for what I would consider like commercial development. So this is a bank in Bexley, not too far from here. Top right, we've actually got a wastewater treatment plant in Youngstown area. And then the bottom right is actually a brewery and marketplace in Hilliard. So we partner a lot with architects, with our own utility infrastructure group, with landscape architects, things like that, to provide products like this, where we are providing kind of the permitting and grading, utilities, stormwater analysis, all of that associated with it so that these can be built. Here are a few examples of some projects that we're actually seeing go up right now in the downtown Columbus area. On the left is a mega project that we've got. We're actually doing a portion of it, Scioto Peninsula, which is, you can kind of see right here, this is the Scioto, what's that called?
Scioto Mile.
Scioto Mile. This is COSI, just to the south of Scioto Mile. So starting to see a lot of big buildings that kind of, you know, are going to really change the skyline in Columbus, which is kind of cool to see, you know, be developed, and we get to have our hand in that. The two on the right are really good examples of a lot of the product that we provide. A lot of people come to us, they want to do mid-rise apartment buildings or multifamily developments, things like that. So we've got a huge presence in downtown Columbus, doing a lot of buildings that look very similar to those. You'll see them pop up. And then kind of the last branch, I should say, of our group is single family development. So here are three examples where we're essentially getting, you know, providing all of the utilities and pavement and essentially making it pad ready for single family developers to come in and start building homes. And I'm sure that everybody is aware of kind of the housing shortage in Ohio, but really Central Ohio area. So we're going to start to see this ramp up as well. And we've already started to see it ramp up quite a bit. So this is a couple of these, I think, are maybe 60 to 100 houses. One on the right is a good example of what kind of we would consider pad ready. So this is kind of right after construction of all of our underground utilities. We've got all our stormwater controls in place, and home builders can kind of come in and start doing the buildings. So I'll kick it back to Mike.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you saw a little bit of what, you know, the big groups in our operation are transportation, bridge is part of that, site civil engineering, construction inspection is a big part of what we do. We do a lot of inspection work across Ohio. So, you know, everything that we design typically has an inspector on it. We don't always get to do the inspection, but we have a group of about 25 or 30 people who all over the state and do inspection. Survey is a part of every one of our projects. That's the first thing that happens 9 times out of 10 is go out and run the survey crews, pick up our topography, build our CAD base maps. Environmental is a part of a lot of what Joel does, as well as what we do for ODOT and municipalities. You got to make sure you clear the environmental impacts. If there's a wetland, a stream, endangered species, whatever it might be, and make sure you're understanding where those things are and how to mitigate it. Utility infrastructure, we've got groups of folks who are focused on, you know, not just the gravity sewers, but pressure pipe, wastewater treatment facilities, large diameter pipe, building watershed models for large regions. So, you know, they have a very specific focus. Talked about construction solutions. Investigative is an interesting branch that not all firms have. That's a group of engineers that we have who really focus on evaluation of existing features. Feature or buildings like a parking garage or this building itself, say it was damaged in a windstorm. We would come and investigate with the limits and extent of that damage. Hurricanes, you know, those types of things. We go into those areas before people can occupy those spaces. We got to make sure that they pass code and make sure that there's no unseen damage. You know, if you're trying to extend the life of a facility, like a parking garage or a building like this, you want to have somebody come in who can evaluate, you know, the kind of the guts, climb underneath, get down into the basements and find out what's going on in those buildings. Investigative is very unique for our industry, but it's a very important and growing industry. And then last but not least is our traffic engineers. They are the root of a lot of problems. They identify those things. They're the ones out there counting cars, evaluating the traffic, seeing what needs to be done, seeing what those improvements need to look like. Is it a traffic signal? Is it a roundabout? Is it something, the combination of the two? Does this highway need to be 3 lanes, 4 lanes, 5 lanes? What's the growth projection? What's the growth rate in this area? Those traffic engineers are essential for everything we do. And as you can see, everything we've talked about today is pretty much something that you've probably had a class in or a friend has. It's all civil engineering. This is just where your career in one class a semester turns into a lifetime focus in a topic or two. So we're always looking to add folks who have a passion and interest in engineering. One of the things I like about Structurepoint is just because you join our team as a roadway engineer, doesn't mean you will always be a roadway engineer. You may find that after you figure out what all this really means, when you're done with school and you got this job, you might want to go be in construction inspection. I've had several people who say, I don't like staring at the windows all day. I want to go out in the field. I've had guys that go, I'm tired of sweating outside. I don't want to come inside. So we've had a number of people who started in traffic and moved over. Sage has got a bridge guy who moonlights as a structural engineer during the winter months. So he does inspection during the summer and comes back in. I've got a number of inspectors who really want to see how things are done on the design side because it helps them be better as an inspection. So we try to be as flexible as we can. Our co-ops and interns, we try to get them as exposed to as many different things as possible. I know a lot of times you're focused on one thing, and that's great, but there's so much that civil engineers do. And we at Structurepoint want to make sure you're seeing them all to find out what you want to do for 40, 50 hours a week, for 52 weeks a year, for 40 years. So it's a big commitment. So we want you to make sure that you're given all of the opportunities. So again, the root of why we're here today is we want to answer your questions. We want to talk about American Structurepoint and what we do. I want to talk about the consulting industry. I mean, this is a potential job for you when you graduate. This is what we do. We service our clients. We add value to communities. We help projects become reality. We are currently looking for full-time staff in all 3 of the departments that are here today. We're also looking for interns and co-ops. We love to work with you guys and get a feel for what you like. And it's almost a test drive for both of us to see whether you enjoy what you're doing or you want to go try something different. And I'll open it up to questions. Anybody have any questions off the top of their head? Anybody hungry for more pizza? Oh, go ahead.
When are they going to break ground on that East Hudson project? Because I was just there today and it definitely,
So we turned in final plans Saturday.
Okay.
And they will go to signatures, and that's City Columbus, so they move very slowly. They will bid it over the winter, and they will start construction probably in March, April, May.
Okay, so.
And that will be a 2-phase, so that'll be 2 summers worth of construction.
Oh, all right.
So
I'm gonna keep like half of it open.
So we're gonna maintain traffic in one direction away from the interstate. We're not gonna back up traffic on the interstate, so you'll be able to exit and head east.
Okay.
So you will not be able to head west on Hudson
That's good
Street
to know.
anymore.
We live just across the interstate from that, so that's.
There you go.
Curious.
Yeah.
For the bridge on the Herrick Drive, how you said it was?
Yeah.
The one where you guys tore it up and did some stuff?
Yep.
For things like that, where you run into issues on existing bridges, do you, as the bridge engineer, go out into the field, or is that something you rely on, like the bridge inspectors to kind of give you a report and then you look at that report?
Well, on a rehabilitation job like that one, it's our job to get out there and do as much inspection as we can to try to make sure we're going to catch all the deficiencies and, just to get a good set of plans put together for the contractor. But in the case of that project, it was, you couldn't see it. It was underneath of the asphalt. Those kind of things happen. There's a lot of things that, a good inspector won't catch either. It's just impossible. So on any rehabilitation job, you always have to be prepared for some curveballs. And that's what makes them cool. That's a small little job, it might not excite many people, but every rehabilitation job I've worked on has had some unique thing that you kind of had to deal with. So they're pretty cool projects, really, and they're definitely no two alike. So you gotta be prepared to think on your toes a little bit. And yeah, something like that, the contractor finds something like that, you go out, take a look at it with them, you try to figure out what they want to do, what you think needs to be done, and you put a solution together. So it's always cool. When you can work with a contractor, it's good. Like a design build job, that's been like that for 3 years now on that project. It's every day it's something new. So
I think that's one of the things about engineering is there's, your professors will tell you there's one right answer. What we do, there's never one right answer. There's several different ways to do it. Contractor will tell you there's one cheapest way to do it. So he definitely likes the cheap one, but you know, as an owner, if you're ODOT, you want the one that probably requires the least amount of maintenance and will last the longest. So it's a matter of perspective as to what right and wrong are. So you've got standards and policies you have to follow, but there's several different ways to do that. I think that's what I think Sage is talking about. That's what makes all these jobs kind of interesting. They're never quite the same. It's never quite a cookie cutter. Every site's different. Every constraint is different. So, you know, as much as it's sometimes a pain in the butt, they are interesting, and the unforeseen causes your blood pressure to go up a little bit when you got a contractor out in the field going, I can't build it the way you told me to. Come look at this. You know, people have stopped work, and that's money. You know, that's time. So as an engineer, that's when we get to go out in the field, and you know, and everyone stops and says, what does this guy want us to do? And that's where you get to, you know, own your engineering degree. You know, your problem solving skills. You know, that history of background. You know, that one internship you had 20 years ago where you learned that one lesson might become applicable that day. So I think those are great opportunities for everybody to kind of learn from their past experiences. I always say, learn from your mistakes. I think that's what engineering is. Learn from your mistakes. The best lessons I ever learned were the things I screwed up. So, I mean, I think it's important to learn and ask questions. I don't think it doesn't start and stop with you guys. We're still learning and asking questions and making mistakes. So any other questions? I know a few people got here late. Grab some pizza. There's some left over. Go ahead.
Do you know what areas you are hiring for specifically in the Columbus or Cleveland area?
So in all of the offices, we're looking for roadway folks who want to design roads, learn about roadway geometrics, roadway drainage, pavement design.
For the bridge group, it's the Columbus office. That's where all of our bridge engineers are in Ohio, and obviously very difficult for someone just come in and try to work without any kind of mentorship around that. So
Yeah, mentoring's key. You got to have somebody there that can help train you. Be that resource. Like I said, ask tons of questions. Well, it's hard to do when you're the only person in the office. So our roadway, our Cincinnati and Cleveland office both have strong roadway groups, but civil and structural are really based in Columbus.
Yep. And, you know, as Mike said, Cleveland is blowing up, getting huge into the roadway group. And, you know, there is a plan to get kind of private side development up in Cleveland. But, you know, right now from Columbus, we pretty much operate on behalf of Ohio, really. So there may potentially be an opportunity to open it up to Cleveland. Cincinnati's, there's no chance. Nobody wants to go out of Cincinnati, start rolling Cincinnati. But potential to open up the Cleveland office. So, but we do a lot of it just from Columbus. So gives you a chance to kind of do site visits around the state. I mean, you know, just this past week, I was down in Kentucky looking at a project that we actually just finished. We've gone up to Youngstown actually to look at Aqua Struthers and all these, you know, potential issues that come up during construction. You know, we like to be there. There's always this relationship between, you know, the contractor wants the cheapest, as Mike said, but we also want to be there and have our voice heard so that, you know, we're providing good products. So.
Anything else? Go for it.
Any of you can answer this, or all of you. You obviously work for American Structurepoint now, that's why you're here. But what brought you to the company, and what's keeping you there? What do you like about it?
You guys want to swing first?
I'm not to get too introspective here.
no, I can start off. I've worked for several other firms in my career. You know, so I do have, you know, some insight, I guess, but I came to Structurepoint primarily for the people. You know, the staff is great, and I knew some of the staff just in the industry while at my other while working for other employers, and also just for the direction that we're going at. I mean, the type of projects that we're winning, that we're pursuing, we're just really moving in a good direction. Getting to work on really cool projects that are really shaping communities, you know, that are interesting to me. So
My wife brought me to Columbus. So. Structurepoint chose me. I actually graduated 5 years ago. My first job was down in West Virginia, and then I did get married and come up to Structurepoint. But you know, what keeps me here really is I really like the ability to grow, and the company is growing like crazy. So with that comes good opportunities for people that are willing and able to succeed. So it rewards success, and that's why I said.
I'll date myself. I've been doing this for almost 25 years, so I've got a little bit of everything. So I moved to Chicago with my wife because she got her master's degree. So there I was based on her need to get her master's degree, but had a great opportunity, met a lot of great people. I think you'll find that our business and our industry is mostly people. You're going to interact with folks for your career. I mean, there's folks that I've known for 25 years that I only worked with for a summer, or overlapped with them for a couple of years at a certain job. But it's kind of a tight-knit community of engineers. We stay together, join those professional organizations, be involved, be active. You'll build lifetime friendships. And at some point, that buddy of yours that used to drink with down at Varsity Club will be the director of ODOT. And that'll help you get more work. That'll help you keep your job. So there's never know who you're going to bump into. But I came to Structurepoint. I was with Wolpert for 10 years. They did a lot of geospatial. They were a big geospatial company. They had $1 million scanners, they had planes and all kinds of stuff. I wanted to do transportation design, so I found a company that wanted to lead with that. I wanted to lead with design, and American Structurepoint leads with design. We don't have there I was second fiddle to the laser scanner. Here I'm kind of running the show here. So, and that gets us an opportunity to go after bigger jobs. Wolpert would never have tackled half of these jobs. Big design build, big interchange projects. Projects where I need 15, 20 people working on it for 2 years isn't the kind of horsepower you can have at a small company where there's only 6, 7, 8 folks. So, we're doing the Cuyahoga 90 project up in Cleveland. It's a design project for ODOT District 12. It's going to last us probably 2 years, start to finish. It's about 8 miles worth of interstate rehab work starting on the west side of Cleveland, working out 8 miles towards the airport. It's got a staff of about 15 people working full time on it. Now they'll rotate around as different things become important: drainage, maintenance of traffic, roadway design. But that's just going to have a ton of people working on it for a long period of time. And it's a cool project when it gets built. So, but that one will take 5 years, maybe 10 years to actually go into the ground. So the bigger transportation projects take a long time. But that's why I came here, is to have access to those types of projects and to work with cool people.
Those are great answers, guys. Thank you.
Anything else?
Mike, what do you think the difference is between working at a private consulting firm versus a municipality?
I think, as you look at your career, you got to decide what you want to do and how you want to do it. So there's a lot of great opportunities to work with the DOTs and work with the cities. I think there's a lot of creative and innovative positions. I find 9 times out of 10, though, they're usually hiring consultants. They've got an idea, or they sense a problem, but they don't have the capacity or horsepower to really deal with it. And that's where the consulting industry is here to support them. There's a lot of great careers you can have. You're going to have your hands on a lot of cool projects from a management perspective, per se, not necessarily a design perspective. So I work with a lot of great people at City of Columbus and at ODOT who've made 30-year careers managing some of the biggest 70-71 split. There's people are going to make their name working on big jobs that last decades, but they're not actually doing the design. And I always wanted to have my piece of the design. So, but that may not be who you are. You might be a manager at heart. You may say, leave the book learning to those guys, and I would just want to run jobs. And some people are really, really good at that and can manage the bureaucracy of it and the pace of it. And they're really great at doing that. I've worked with some really great project managers across the state. So it's a definitely different approach. We're a business, we don't make money, we're out of business. So not the same mentality at a DOT or a city. They're never going out of business. We all pay for them to stay in business. So just a little different mentality. But, I think there's a lot of the same camaraderie with their staff and with their folks. And there's a lot of opportunity to work on a lot of cool projects too. That was your question. Do I get to ask you a question now?
Sure.
Actually, I have a question.
Sure.
Off that. So what is the kind of difference of pace of work versus working at ODOT versus a company?
So, I'm not going to bring a whole lot of stereotypes, but I think, we in the consulting industry are driven by business, right? We're driven by profitability. If we're not profitable, if we're not efficient, if we're not productive, if we're not thorough, we lose projects, we don't win new ones, we're not hired again, we go out of business. That's not the case necessarily. You may get shuffled around. But I think in general, the pace of work is faster on the consulting side. I think it's, there's overtime, there's opportunities for advancement, there's opportunities for career growth. There's a lot more flexibility, you want to get a different job. Say you're at Ohio State and you work in this department, you want to go work in that department, you may have to wait 10 years, 5 years for a spot to open, the right position, the right pay scale to open. At StructurePoint, we tend to be, we're making decisions however we want. If you want to go work in the bridge group, well, give me a couple months to figure that out, but we'll go move you to the bridge group. So I think there's a lot more flexibility. I think there's a lot more reward when it comes to your hard work pays off. I've talked to a lot of folks who worked their whole career at ODOT and said it didn't matter how hard I worked. I got my work done, but it didn't matter how hard I worked because I was never going to get some big bonus or some big promotion. Tended to be a little political at the top, but I think at the same time there's a lot of security in that too. ODOT's not going out of business. There's always going to be new projects and always new opportunities for those folks too. So that you balance one with the other. Retirement might be a little better at ODOT. Bonuses and pay might be a little better at a consulting firm. Not to pull the curtain back on the business side, but you all went to school so you can go pay all this debt you just accumulated back off. So absolutely.
All that information is available on the internet these days.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. We always say we like to work hard and play hard. So on the consulting side, I think we try to do as much of that extracurricular as we can, a lot of happy hours, a lot of softball teams, bowling nights, things like that, because we're all working together. And a lot of times I've seen guys that I've worked with more than I've seen my kids and my family during certain weeks. So, I mean, they're some of your best friends and definitely some of the people you're spending a lot of time with. So you want to make sure you're around a good group of people. And I think that's an important part of the business too. Don't take a job that pays 50 cents more when you don't you didn't gel with any of the staff, or there's only one or two people in that office. Those aren't great career decisions. It might make you a little bit more money in a given year, but it might not be a good career decision for you.
You probably did say this during the presentation, but how big are each of your departments, respectively, in Columbus office?
In the Columbus office, we now have 17. So 17 out of 100 or whatever.
Yeah, 17 out of about 75 total. So, yeah, 75 to 100.
We have 5 bridge engineers on this. The bridge group total is only 24. That includes technicians too. But that's still a pretty good size.
I'd say that's
For a bridge group. I mean, doing bridge work, you don't need the capacity that you need to do road jobs. Like with a group like that, you can see some of the projects that we're working on. It's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah, for those of you who want to be structural engineers, there aren't a ton of structural engineer jobs. For every one bridge engineer, 5, 6 roadway engineers. So, there's a lot more road design that needs to be done for every bridge project. So 5 people is a good sized group. The company I work for had 1 bridge engineer, so 2 bridge engineers. So 5 bridge engineers, pretty good group. My group is made up, I have 4 people down in Blue Ash, I have 7 people up in Cleveland, and I have 16, 17 folks here in Columbus. So whatever that math works out to. And there's a wide range of people from just started last June. A couple of OSU grads actually started with us last June, so that's good. All the way up to people who are looking at retirement in the next 2 to 3 years. So we've got a wide range of folks through their careers. Multiple levels. Staff engineer is kind of where you start. You work your way up to design engineer. Pass your PE exam. That's when you get to be a design engineer. You might be leading designs or leading groups. Senior design engineer might be leading whole teams of folks on larger, more complex things. Project managers, team leaders, group leaders, kind of how it breaks down. So you can spend your career, go down whichever path you want. I don't do as much design as I used to. I'm more into the management side and the business side of things, but that took me 15, 20 years to get to that spot. So.
Yeah, I'll actually touch on that too. There really are a lot of similarities and there are a lot of differences in the public work and the private work, right? So one of the differences, first off, our Columbus office, our site development team has grown quite a bit in the last 2 years, really. So 2 years ago, we were about 6 or 8 employees, and now we're at 17. So we've doubled essentially in 2 years, and we're trying to get butts and seats.
I failed the name quiz. I couldn't name half the people that he's got over there. There's so many new people.
That's the running joke, is when somebody doesn't know who it is, they're like, hey, they're just down on the other end.
They're down in the civil group.
But in our civil group too, that also the growth is important, but we also see, if you're successful early on in your career, like we see you kind of take two paths, right? So same thing, you start out as a staff engineer, you kind of design a couple years, get promoted to project engineer, and then really once you pass your PE, or prove yourself as, as competent, you can kind of split into two decisions. One of them is to kind of go the management route. One of them is to kind of go the design technical expert route. So we have people in our group that do both. I fell into the management route just because I like to talk and I like to be around people. And sometimes our technical expertise guys, they do not. So it's kind of an interesting aspect of it that you really get a chance to advance pretty quickly in the site development. But on the flip side of that, there's quite a bit of turnover. So people get burnt out, you work quite a bit, and then end up going working for Columbus or a review agency, something like that, whenever you have kids. But it's a rewarding experience to see things pop up around you that you got to hand it. So,
And we're tied to the markets too. Our hiring and, staffing is tied to how well the economy's doing. If they're not building 10 million square feet of industrial, we don't hire 17 new people. So if ODOT's funding cuts in half, I don't need 6 people to design all this work because it starts to go away. So that's the other downside, right, to being on the consulting when the markets aren't doing great. So I'm really hoping for a stimulus pack or an infrastructure package out of Congress right now. So that will really help our state, but all of the states in their infrastructure. So other question? Yeah, what do you got?
Are you guys strictly in Ohio? Like you ever, I know there's a Texas office, but how often do you communicate or dabble with their projects?
So we are actually working on an Indiana project right now, actually 2 Indiana projects right now. There's a County Road 400, 500, and some rural part of Indiana. And then we're also doing a roundabout in, I forget the name of the town, but we're doing design. We share staff between offices. There's good and bad to that. Obviously, you're going to learn a little bit different standard, but at the same time, it gives you opportunities to work on different stuff, new things. If you're thinking about relocating, we do partner with Texas on projects as well. Florida right now is just newer, getting their feet off the ground. They're mostly on the traffic-y side of things. They're studying and kind of working towards that development. Remember I told you about the evolution of a project kind of starts with traffic and evolves into a full-blown design. Well, they're starting with some traffic operations. So we'll be sharing staff. That's just part of corporate culture nowadays. I would say that when you guys start your job, you will do a lot of virtual sharing, sharing desktops, working on collaborative teams that are in multiple offices all the time. I think that's something that COVID opened wide up for everybody, is the realization that we can collaborate a lot better than we have been in the past. So.
how many people here are you all juniors and seniors for the most part? Does anybody want to share if they've had any good internships or jobs in the past, or is everybody looking for their first one, or what's the reason movement? Dan, you already told us site development last year. What about?
I was at Kinley Horn last summer.
Okay.
Consulting.
There you go.
I had 2 internships with Michael Baker International in Township, PA, doing river design.
Nice.
That's right. We interviewed you.
Where were you at?
I had 2 with Great Lakes Construction.
Okay,
This past summer, I was on the 2080 project
nice.
around the West Coast.
Very cool.
I did 2 co-ops and still work part-time for Messer. I
Okay,
have a project right across from the Union, the 2 office buildings. So
nice.
I worked with OHM last year in a smaller company in Michigan, and I've been doing municipal stuff.
Did you work for them up in Michigan?
Yeah, so I work remote with the Livonia office from here, but I also do some work with the Columbus office when they need.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know Aaron and those guys over at OHM. That's what I mean. It's a small group. You're gonna know everybody. You really will. So even if you're talking about people over in Michigan or Indiana or Texas, you'd be surprised who you bump into. So any other good co-op internship stories?
I worked with ODOT last summer and I'm still with them.
Yep. Central office or District 6?
Central office.
Central office. Okay.
I worked with Midwestern Consulting last summer.
Okay.
Small land development firm
Yeah.
in Arbor.
Yeah, cool.
That's the office I was talking about.
Oh, the Ann Arbor office.
Yep, I worked there, not this past month, but someone before.
Telling you, small world, small world.
not as small as you think.
One of the guys I worked with, my roommate, went to high school with him and his sister. And she was like,
Nice.
oh, do you know her? I was like, yeah. So small world.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, well, if there's more pizza, please eat it all. Like I said before, I'm not taking any of it home with me, so we'll be hanging around if you guys want to talk one-on-one. If he's heard or likes anything they heard or had any questions that they want to talk through, I'd love to chat if you want to. If you want to just take my card, I'd love to hand it out. We can follow up later too. Thank you.
Yep, thanks.